Ladies and gentlemen, community leaders, friends, and members of the media, I appreciate you being here this morning. I want to acknowledge the presence of State Senator Bruce Starr and Hillsborough Mayor Jerry Willey, who've joined us this morning, and I appreciate their being here. More than 2 years ago, I sought a new job because not enough Oregonians had a job. In that summer of 2009, I announced my candidacy for U.S. Congress because the representative of Oregon's 1st District didn't have the creativity, clout, and leadership to help bring sustainable, family-wage jobs to our state. We needed an experienced and effective collaborator who, while bringing together the diverse interests of the 1st District, could quickly gain the respect of peers in Congress so as to bring results back to Oregon. Today, without reservation, I can say my desire to help my Oregon neighbors and friends find jobs, build careers, and become prosperous has never been stronger. Since we last met, I've been busy rebuilding my company, a small business like the one we're in today. We've all faced unprecedented challenges during this this very relentless recession. And recently, working with various local elected officials, civic partners, and business leaders, as a private citizen, I've been gathering support for a quintessentially Oregon concept to create thousands of new sustainable jobs right here, right now. Since the last election, economic development and job growth have been my passion. While politicians in Washington have been playing with our future, we Oregonians continue to see unacceptably high unemployment. As partisans on both sides dwell on gotcha gamesmanship, unhelpful labels, and tired talking points, many Oregon office buildings and warehouses remain unoccupied. For sale signs clutter our neighborhoods, and dads come home with pink slips, and grandmas wonder when they can retire. Anymore, it doesn't feel like those in Washington have our best interests in mind. I don't expect the cynics to believe me when I say this, but there is one central reason I'm running. Find real, lasting solutions that will allow your sister, your neighbor, your husband, your friend to find a job so that Oregon can be their home, not only where they start a career, but where they retire from it. Here in the 1st District, our human and natural resources, I believe, are second to none. We've got world-class innovators and entrepreneurs, nurseries and vineyards that attract buyers from far and wide, ports and rivers to export our goods across the globe. We have a growing, diverse population that is motivated to use their God-given talents to build a better life for their children. Yet these assets have largely been forgotten back in Washington. The fact is, the last several years have been the forgotten decade for Northwest Oregon because no one's been fighting for us. And if they've tried, others have disregarded them. We need in the halls of Congress, at long last, an advocate for Northwest Oregon. This beautiful place we call home hasn't had someone who could actually lead that charge. Ladies and gentlemen, our Oregon heritage defined optimism and the pioneering spirit. And I submit to you today that I'm the person to deliver on the promise of Oregon. A place where individuals can unleash their full potential. A place where we can have a little bit more strut in our step. The small high-tech business we're visiting today, and hundreds just like it, are the future of this region. Founded on revolutionary ideas, these hardworking Oregonians are motivated to build a growing enterprise where success is defined as more opportunities and jobs for more and more Oregonians. But who will champion their cause? A bureaucrat? Another comfortable politician? No. We don't need more of the same, those who know how to spend. We need those who know how to produce. As one who has helped launch hundreds of careers right here from Oregon, I'm the only candidate in this race that has taken the risk to start a business, grow it into an industry leader, invent new solutions, and directly impact people's lives through continual education and training. I'm calling on voters today to raise their expectations of those they elect. It's not too much to expect your elected representative to understand it's not their money they're spending. It's not too much to expect your congressman to know how to make a budget and stick to it. It's not too much to want a congressman who's felt the anxiety of paying bills and meeting a payroll, someone who's borne the burden of caring for the livelihoods of those who've placed their trust in them. If I'm elected, the owners and employees of this small business and those throughout Washington and Clatsop and Columbia and Yamhill and Multnomah Counties should fully expect me to put all my energy and experience to work for them. If elected, I will be your voice and advocate, and will answer to District 1 voters before I answer to party leaders. And listen up, outsiders. If you think you can buy me like you've done with so many politicians, I've got one thing to say: keep moving. This is an election, not a selection. And no political party or special interest knows what's best for Oregonians in the 1st District more than the voters themselves. Finally, let me say I'm humbled and honored to have the support of so many elected officials, and business and community leaders, some of whom, as I mentioned, are here today. Our campaign will be solely focused on the things they struggle with on a daily basis: creating jobs, ensuring safe and sustainable communities for families and our children, and making Oregon the best place to live and work. The founders of our country established a representative government so that the voice of the people could be heard through the mouth of those they elect. If I'm elected, my words may be my own, but the thoughts and ideas forming those words will be from those who send me to Washington. This is why I'm running, sprinting, listening, and certainly working to represent the citizens of the 1st Congressional District. Thank you. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Rob, you talked about how your business experience has set you where you are today, but it's a legislative office, not an executive one. Why does your skill set make you a good candidate for Congress?
I think there are a lot of skills that you learn by starting a business, running a business, especially in a recessionary period, such as I mentioned, learning how to write a budget, stick to a budget, make tough decisions, make sure that your people are well trained so that they can prosper and grow, and also the work of collaboration and cooperation that's necessary in any small business. In fact, in any business, because you're not going to find everyone always agreeing on the same things. So be able to bring people together, whether they be internal or external, and provide them actual measurable results is something that I and the people who work with me have done for years. And I think those are skill sets and a mentality that we very much need in Congress today, especially in the 1st District.
Would you have voted for the debt reduction deal if you were in Congress right now?
The first thing I'll always be thinking about is how is anything coming out of Washington going to affect jobs in Oregon? And the fact of the matter is that that issue should have been resolved a long time ago, because by its delay, it created uncertainty back home and throughout the country. And so we all agree we can't spend more than we have, whether it's in business, your home, and certainly in government. We also agree that if we would have defaulted on the debts that we already have, money that we've already, quote, spent, it would have been catastrophic for our economy. And of course, it would have made borrowing more difficult back home. Interest rates would have gone up. Businesses couldn't hire as much. There couldn't be as much investment in the 1st District especially. People would have a harder time paying their car loans and their mortgages, etc. So I believe that the bill that was passed earlier this week is a good start, but I think the best way that we can get out of the deficits that we're experiencing right now is through job growth, to make sure that we have more taxpayers in the system and not have a system that's continually paying for the care and the needs of people who cannot find work. The greatest thing I can do as their congressman is not to give them another handout, but to help them find a job that's sustainable and lasting.
How are you going to do that? How will you do that?
Well, first of all, as I mentioned, it comes with making difficult decisions. And I think it's fair to say that we don't have a lot of people in Congress that are making very tough decisions. This is why we haven't had a budget that's been passed for many years now. It's absolutely irresponsible. I know that the family who's standing behind me, whatever we do, we have to ask ourselves, can we afford this? If we can't afford it, there's two things we have to do. We either have to lower our expectations, lower our spending, be more responsible, or we have to find ways to pay for it. And as I said, right now what we can do in Congress is focus on jobs. That's the number one reason I'm running. It's the number one disappointment I have in our former congressman, and I think it's the number one reason why Oregonians will elect me.
running for the second time in a year. What impact do you think Congressman Wu's behavior, his resignation, will have on this campaign?
Well, I would say that while I certainly feel for the congressman and his family, I've met his kids, I have great sympathy for what they must be going through right now. I certainly have tremendous sympathy for those who have been victims of some of his behavior, which he admits has been very inappropriate, to say the least. I think the greatest thing about his resignation is that we don't have to talk about him anymore. We can focus on Oregon. We can focus on the 1st District. We've been distracted with the exploits of a congressman who has not been acting as his title should suggest. And I think that the Oregon voters will find me someone who will devote my energies, my talents, whatever talents I may have, bringing to the table, my experience, to focusing on them and not me.
Are you saying today you won't bring him up in the campaign?
I'm saying that for me, the focus of his exploits is not part of my campaign.
Rob, have you seen the schedule for the Secretary of State's office for after the election process?
Yes, I have.
How can you be competitive with someone like Brad Vacant, who's already 6 digits into the fundraising race when we just have between now and January for the general?
Well, I think a lot of voters, if judging from the comments that I've been getting, not just recently, but over the last several months, a lot of voters in the 1st District wish they had a do-over from last November. I'm giving them a chance to have a do-over. And I've been hearing that not just from people who voted for me, but people who didn't vote for me. And so I'm excited that I have the time in this special election to put toward discussing the issues, not personalities, but rather the issues that are affecting Oregonians, the fact that we can now focus on what really creates jobs, what impedes jobs. Last time it was a little difficult, frankly, with so many elections going on simultaneously. As a new candidate, for me to be able to break through all of that political noise. But now the voters really have a wonderful, unprecedented opportunity to focus on what the candidates can do, what they've done in the past, what their experience and skill set is, and frankly, their ideas for Oregon. So I'm welcoming this opportunity.
Besides jobs, what does District 1 in need of? What is it in need of?
It's in need of advocacy. When we go back to Washington, over the last several years, if you were to ask members of Congress who represents the 1st District of Oregon and all of the great resources it provides, the inventive small businesses, the high-tech sector, the fisheries on the coast, the vineyards and the nurseries in the countryside, the business sector of downtown Portland. If you ask them who represents this dynamic, creative section of Oregon, most members of Congress couldn't tell you. They'll know when Rob Cornilles is the representative of Oregon's 1st District. They'll know that because I will constantly be championing our causes. We have solutions found in this 1st District that can help national problems, both intellectually and through the products and services we provide. And that's what you'll see different if this election goes as I think it will.
Do you anticipate a primary opponent, and do you think that will have an impact on your party's ability to win this special election?
Well, I'm very appreciative of those who have been mentioned as possible primary opponents who have actually endorsed me just in the last several hours. I'm appreciative of their support, their belief in me, and I anticipate that the party will continue to unite as we have demonstrated in the last few days. Whether or not others will get in the race, certainly that's a decision they'll have to make as far as what's best for them, what's best for the party, because I think right now we have a very unique opportunity as Republicans to let our voice be heard and to help all voters understand what we stand for and what we don't stand for. And I think we'll take advantage of that opportunity.
What's your position on Afghanistan? Because some have suggested part of our deficit problem is being in wars that were never paid for. So do you support our continued presence there, or do you think it's time to leave?
Well, I don't think it's time to leave today. I think we have to be prudent about those decisions. Certainly, national security, the welfare of my children, the children throughout our district, is of my utmost concern. And so I think, again, responsible, prudent, measured decisions are required. And I certainly look to those who have expertise beyond my own in this area. I would value their advice, but I'd also be able to stand up and be independent and say, if this isn't right for our country economically and as far as our long-term national security, then we need to take a different course.